Hello, everyone, and welcome. In this recording, I would like to offer you my perspective and, of course, my guidance and advice, just as the title suggests, of what it is that we can do to perhaps influence is the best word, the collective situation. Because, after all, this is the age of Aquarius, which means that the individual matters just as much as the collective. Now, it is without a shadow of a doubt that the collective situation is impacting all of us, especially, let's say, energetically speaking. All of us feel the helplessness, the unrest, and very many times even the frustration, aggression that goes hand in hand with this. And we might ask ourselves the question, what it is that we can do. Now, my work is spiritual, my channel is spiritual. So, of course, that is the nature of the advice and guidance that I can give to you. Not political, not financial, not economical, not very practical, but yet perhaps spirituality is just as an important component of our beings, our lives, our world, our reality as the other ones. So this may matter just as much. Now, before I get to the advice, I didn't really want to make this video astrological, but I have to incorporate just a tiny bit of astrology into it because before anything, we need to understand the situation. Reality is nothing more than a mirror, and sometimes that mirror is screaming at us, it is raging at us. It is reflecting something continuously in a very almost aggressive manner. And when that happens, it means we're not paying attention really. We're not getting the main message. We're not getting the essence of what basically the universe is advising us to do. So the collective situation, of course, has the whatever it is that we're going through in the present moment has the signature, the imprint of the Libra eclipse. That eclipse took place at 21 degree of Libra, and as any eclipse, it resets something. So as me and many other astrologers said in our horoscope or our analysis, Libra is agreement, it is partnership, it is the law, it is the compromise, which holds a certain balance and a compromise which everyone involved takes as granted, because otherwise it's not a contract really. An eclipse resets. An eclipse basically, how should I say, it begins to purge the past. So the agreements, the alliances, the pacts, everything that basically were part of the past are being undone. And as you can see, two enemies are enemies once more in a very open way. Libra, according to Ptolemy, also rules declared, enemies that that are enemies. So, of course, this is greatly highlighted. But this 21 degree of Libra squares something much, much more important than that. If we go back to 2020, especially 12th of January, we had the meeting of Saturn and Pluto there. And that is a very, very big deal because it was the aspect that told us that it's time for our paradigm, our normality, our reality to shatter. And after the shattering, it has to be rebuilt. It has to, just like when ice melts, it becomes water, right? But when it gets cold enough, it will reform the crystal, the ice, once again. So this is how we can, symbolize this. We can understand this metaphorically. Capricorn, let's say it's a metal. It melts, and after it melts, it has to take a new shape again. Now, unfortunately, the shape is becoming the same old, because the universe can only melt the metal. It cannot reshape it for you, because if it would, it's against free will. It is against its very own divine law and nature, the very core of it. So it cannot do something for us. You know, it can catalyze it. It can tell us this is the time. This at this particular moment, this is what's happening. The big shift. And all of us are very, very familiar to it. Now, if we go back in time, the last great conjunction in the same part of Capricorn was in 1518 or something like that. Anyway, in larger terms, it coincided with the reformist movement, when Martin Luther declared that everyone has their own right to interpret the Bible for themselves, and you cannot pay for the forgiveness of sins because that is ridiculous and goes against the very theological principles of Christianity. And that changed the world, because at that moment, the institute of the Pope was basically Capricorn. It was the ruler over everything. So we could see that the very same pattern, how it played out in the past. Now, in the present, things are not all that very much different, because we do need to break the power of Capricorn in order for a new paradigm in its truest sense to be embraced by us, and that new paradigm to be, how should I say, reflective of our true inner being. So where am I going with this? There is also an aspect in the sky which actually tells us what it is that we need to do. And I'm speaking about the sextile. I know it's not a major aspect. I know it's not something that is so very impactful apparently, and yet it's a sextile. It is basically a harmonious conversation which activates, which gains a lot of power if we take certain action which is basically highlighted by the specifics of the sextile. So Pluto is for the final time in the sign of Capricorn, and it holds a sextile with Neptune. Also, Neptune is in its final stages in the sign of Pisces in our lifetime. So this is an aspect of alchemy. This is an aspect which, long story short, says, what are you doing with your faith? Because the sheer power of belief, what it is that we want to believe, that holds perhaps the absolute power in our limited human sense. So of course it's metaphor. No power is absolute, really. But maybe it's my exaggeration as well, but that holds the true power, and that is what we need to truly embrace. And this is the final moment when we can actually do that, because the sextile will very soon fade as Pluto starts gaining speed. Next year in January, it's already in Aquarius and meant to stay in Aquarius. So you can imagine that it will work with that sign. So we will not have the same empowerment as we do in the present moment. So now that we understand what Pluto is highlighting, the corruption, the dominance, the unfair dominance of Capricorn, and the fact that whatever top-down authority wants, it does, without any question, without any way for us to stop it, to intervene, or to do anything. Maybe, for example, let's say the collective protests and all the legal work, the legal fight, maybe that is one option, but even the legal system is under the influence of the leaders of, let's say, symbolically speaking, Capricorn. So they permit whatever they want to permit. and they are just playing this game of smoke and mirrors with all of us. And this aspect is so crystal clear that they're not really our representatives. They're not really, chosen by us. And all of them, basically, regardless of where you live in the world, they are using exactly that, our belief, the belief of the individual, to keep their normality, their reality, their paradigm, their structure in place and empowered. So basically, from a spiritual perspective, our belief in them, and not necessarily in them personally, but in their structures and the utility of their structures, the theory, the philosophy, the, how should I explain this? The logical structure that they attribute to their structures, basically, those are what absorbs our belief. So this is where they could not have any kind of power without our collective belief. And not just collective, because the collective belief is fueled by our individual beliefs. Belief, faith in that sense, not religiously speaking, but of course religious is very much mixed in this picture as a side note, but that is their food, that is their fuel, that is basically everything. Now let me just give you an example. If all of us stopped believing in the value of money and the present currency, it would disappear overnight. It is sadly as simple as that. But the fact that it's built in that way where we can't do that, because Capricorn in tarot, it is the devil. It has power over us. And what power does it have over us? Not just physical power, but it is basically, we're in like a bird in a cage. We have no other choice but to fuel them with our beliefs. Why? Because they give us the illusion of security. Now, this is just like when someone is addicted to a substance, a person, or something. The addiction is caused by the fact that the relationship, the codependency, offers the person something that they think, they believe they cannot live without. And that is perhaps the biggest illusion or the biggest lie. Now, absolutely, there will come a moment, there will come a point when it becomes so real that the person can simply not live without. And the person will, I don't want to say necessarily die, but, they will definitely have a massive fall without ever being able to climb back if that codependent relationship stops. So that's the point of no return, when basically your belief isn't even your own anymore, when your soul was absorbed, your soul belongs to whatever has power over you. Now, I want to believe that we're not in that situation yet, as of yet. So in order for that person to break the bond, to break the codependency, they need to withdraw their power and believe in something else. In the meantime, negating their old beliefs into whatever caused them the addiction. May that be substance, a person, or anything in life. You know what I mean? A relationship or any example is very viable in this sense. So basically, the only way to break this pattern, to break the bond, to break the chains, the devil card in tarot is such a beautiful depiction, is to project a counter belief, a negation, where we no longer believe in that. And any signs of belief are negated by us. This is where we have our power back. The same goes collectively with the situation. Those people who are commanding divorce, who are ordering divorce, who are committing basically divorce by ordering them. Those are not us. You know what I mean? Are they truly your representatives? Because I am 1,000,000% convinced that most people don't really wish war. They don't even care all that much about the past in that sense. All they want is basically to coexist in peace. All they want is to go about their individual lives, their stories, their soul path, their dreams, whatever it is that they found themselves that they want to embody in this incarnation, and not necessarily the collective war, the turmoil, and everything basically that the leaders, the so-called representatives are basically forcing on them. But this is where social media in the larger sense, plays a massive role, because that enslaves our mental sphere in an instant. And there is no choice, because in order for us to execute everyday activities, we do need to have mobile phone, we do need to have certain kind of digital bank accounts and all of that. So we are deep in this. We're in the spider web. There is breaking out is not, for most people, is basically a utopia. You can't break out just like that. People have families, people have businesses, people have their physical lives to go about. You can't just not support that, physically speaking. Now, what happens within you, in your soul, that's a totally different thing. Because the situation is clear. You are in it. You are trapped in the spider web, so to speak. You have to execute. But your inner belief, it's totally in your hands. Pluto in the sign of Aquarius is highlighting a certain quality of Aquarius, the living dichotomy. You can be in the spider web in the sense, and yet at the same time be free. So you can negate the power of belief that they have over you. That's the most important part that we need to do. We may be caught up in everyday life, government, banking, everything that basically builds society in the modern sense. But that doesn't mean we have to give them our belief. All we need to do, for starters, basically, is to say, that is not my leader, that is not my parliament, it doesn't have any sole power over me. I negate them, basically. You still have to play by the rules, don't get me wrong, but at least in spirit, you made the incision to cut the cords. And that is so very, very important, because with your inner core, with your personal alchemy, with your reactor, with your inner reactor, you're actually negating them. And they will start to lose power, to lose influence, and reality will reflect that. Because reality is just a mirror. It has to mirror what we believe. We believe in comfort, we believe in easiness, we believe in these modern standards where everyone has to be important, everyone has to be a star, everyone has to have the most, how should I say, because I don't want to offend anyone, everyone has to have certain equal rights, but even those rights, they're illusion. You know what I mean? We are basically being kept enslaved by the promise of security. Healthcare, because we are so terrified of passing over. But this is where the ancient had so very much power, because people were not afraid to pass over. Just examine ancient cultures, aboriginal cultures. Passing over is part of the cycle, and you don't lose anything really. You don't lose your individuality. You don't lose your experiences. You just lose the physical journey, basically. But you don't really lose anything else. But again, this is belief, the belief of it. If we are being programmed to fear death in an almost like an obsessive, you might say that it is so natural. But is it really natural? If you look at especially nature, the insect world, certain like grasshoppers, I'm just giving random examples now, certain non-predatory insects, they don't really care. They just allow the spider or any kind of predatory insect to catch them because that's part of the cycle. They have no fear. So the thing is that they are using our fears against us. Fear of poverty, fear of bad health, fear of being alone, fear of not having a harmonious family, fear of missing out knowledge, fear of remaining, I'm so sorry to say this, but stupid, not knowledgeable, fear of being ignorant. But this is where every being has the right to, determine what's true and what is not true for them personally. And the collective influence has not all that much power in the true sense. But if we believe that it has power, then it has ultimate power. So let me just give you another example with the power of belief. This is where many mainstream religions, and this over hundreds and hundreds of years, taught us not to believe in certain, let's say, entities. May that be the spirits of our ancestors, ghosts, fairies, that the divine has physical manifestation, or you know what I mean? And we made it so. We made collectively with that belief reality so dense that they did lose a certain physical influence over our realm, so to speak. Or let me give you basically another example. Human rights. Human rights are actually kind of a modern invention, and they exist only because the masses of us believed in the, how should I say, the presentation of it, someone's ideological creation of them. Otherwise, they would not really exist. And even human rights are evolving, are changing. They're, in a sense, being upgraded. So all of that is due to our acceptance and belief. So the advices I hear all throughout, the internet are that we need to focus on joy, that we need to send our spiritual powers to the people affected. We need to send whatever help we can, prayers, well-beings, peace, wishes. Absolutely. That's the creational part of the energy. Without the creational part, there can be no manifestation, right? But at the same time, withdrawing our belief, taking back the power of our belief, believing in the world that we want to live in rather than the world they dish to us, that is equally as important. Withdrawing, our spiritual essence from it, not giving them power, not making their version of reality solid, crystallized. I'm not even sure which terms to use here. But that is so very, very important, because the purge, that's not automatic. That's not granted to us by divine right. The divine cannot do anything like that in our place. We are the catalysts. We are the channelers of that. We are the fuel to that. Withdrawing our belief is what basically demolishes the current state of Capricorn. Pluto cannot do this without us in that sense. Pluto highlights the truth. If we embrace that truth and if we say, I don't want anything to change because my comfort, my financial situation, my potential health in the future matters to me much more than what I wish in the heart, in my hearts of hearts. And of course, this task to negate the belief is not for everyone, of course not. Some people are actually fighting. Some people are the victims. Some people have various roles. But those people who are especially strong spiritually, well, then it falls to those individuals to actually do this part. And don't get me wrong, there is the other side who wishes nothing more to conserve this. They're doing their jobs exemplary. They are fueling our collective consciousness with everything to keep us in the state of belief in this present balance of normality, if that makes sense. So what we need to do is pretty simple. Besides wishing the peace, besides creating through our, again, belief and through our energy and focus and intention, the new, but we also need to help Pluto by withdrawing the belief of the power all of what I mentioned earlier have over us. We also need to do that, because if not, nothing will substantially change. We will just have the illusion of change. So if the action that you see on the world stage taken by governments and states and things which aren't really the people, if you disagree with them, well, then you need to stop believing in their power. You need to withdraw your power. You need to give the power. If you don't have a specific version, then to the divine, to the source, because the source will, balance out things. But the source, I know it's omnipotent, but it also has to respect its greatest law and principle, and that of free will. It cannot do that without. It doesn't run automatically. No one, and no angel or extraterrestrial or anything will just come and help. It can't, because the divine itself blocks it out. No one can intervene like that. It is up to us either to withdraw our belief or fuel that belief into divine, where the divine simply is way beyond any authority, and it has power. It has great power to even manifest its own design physically, but it will not do that because of the, as I said, principle that it will respect free will. It will respect wherever we give our beliefs, it will do that. It will override its own because of mercy, because of compassion, because this is how our reality is built. Could we take that power and give it over to the divine if we know nothing else and ask it to intervene? Well, that is what's going to happen. But in any case, we do need to take our power back. And this is what Pluto is insistently trying to tell us with the square of the nodes. Libra is very straight. It is us on one scale, and let's say our leaders, our rulers, world rulers, let's say on the other. So we need the scales are not balanced because they are infinitely heavier than us, apparently, but not that is not necessarily true, only if we believe that it's true. And this is exactly what Aries on the other side of the spectrum and on the axis, along with the North Node, is trying to tell us by throwing in the golden apple, the truth. Because what reality is reflecting is that our leaders, so to speak, don't even take slightly into consideration whatever it is that we, the masses, desire. So, you know what I mean. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Thank you for all the love and support. And I do apologize if this is something that you would not expect from me, but this is how I take my stand, or this is how I express my truth. And even if this costs me my channel or subscribers, ultimately, the truth that is in the stars needs to be voiced. So thank you again. Until next time, bye for now.